So as people are aware, we're in the middle of our Mahamudra Dzogchen retreat. And I'm delighted to be here, and I'm glad the sound system is working, and we'll have more improvements in the coming month, I believe, right? But can you hear all the way in the back, Dylan? It's good. All right, very good. So in the Mahamudra training, we put a lot of emphasis on seeing the nature of the water. Because lots of times in our daily life, we're actually more focused on the container. But the container is important too, right? But if you don't know what the water is, you won't be able to really ask for it. People could give you all kinds of containers, and if you just said, give me the container, and you're thinking that the water is going to be coming, then it'll be a problem. So in the higher teachings of Dzogchen Mahamudra, we want to make sure that you know what water is, not just intellectually as in study, or what the composition of it is chemically, but you actually taste it. And you know that it can go in different containers, it's transferable. But generally, we're going to see water in some kind of context, right? Generally, it's going to have some kind of container. Even a reservoir is a container, right? Every once in a while, as a kid, I would try to, see how much rainwater could I get in my mouth. You you kind of like that. So that's a very direct approach. But even that has a container, that's my mouth, so. The Dzogchen teachings particularly are connected with the world or the story or the myth or the journey of Shambhala. So this is what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. And I sent Miguel and Michelle on a nice treasure hunt, and they got to Beer's books and found me a copy of The Secret of Shambhala. Okay. This is maybe James Redfield's maybe third book or something like that, because of course the first one was the Celestine Prophecy, and just a reminder, this is back in middle 90s or something. I think it sold 23 million copies. Okay. And I don't know how, then there was the 10th Insight, and then, this is subtitled The Search for the 11th Insight. I don't know, have we gotten the 12th yet? Maybe not yet. But I wanted to point out that, when a book sells that many copies, it's meeting a certain kind of need. And last century, of course, Lost Horizon became very popular. It was kind of a ripoff because actually, they got the Westerners who crash landed, when they got to Lhasa or it got to Shambhala, it really wasn't run by a Tibetan Lama, it was run by a Catholic priest that had taken some of the information from the Lama. So at that point, maybe it's in the 40s or something, we weren't ready for that. But the idea of Shangri-La became really popular, and Roosevelt, who was president at the time, named the retreat that's now called Camp David, Shangri-La. And then when I was living in Denver, one of the places near the airport, there was an estate. You're driving down Colorado Boulevard and this long grassy area, and then there was the Shangri-La house there. I think it's been torn down, unfortunately, but somebody, wealthy person, had built the house like it was and Lost Horizon. And then there's a street in Fair Oaks called Shangri-La. And of course, the Chinese government changed one of the names of one of their towns that had traditional Chinese name to Shangri-La to attract tourists. I don't know if that worked or not. And then before that, of course, Tibet was really attractive. It attracted Jesuit missionaries who thought they had found a debased form of Catholicism, right? Because some of the rituals look somewhat similar. And then there was Cosmo de Coros, and then the painter Nicholas Roar. How do you pronounce it? I don't know. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is like one of his paintings. It's hard to see, but when we were working on the mural in the back, the artist, what's his name again? Johnny. Yeah, Johnny. Kind of pulled. So we have from this kind of lighting and this kind of like a little bit Art Deco or something. Who's the who's the art historian? Is this little Art Deco? No, or what is it? Maxfield Parrish. Right. So we have that, in the back a little bit. Johnny did that. And then, for those who like Brad Pitt, then we have 7 years in Tibet, right? Heinrich Harr's, people saw the movie, perhaps. No? Yeah? Okay. They were German mountain climbers, and of course the big thing then was showing the German races being superior, so they were trying to climb other mountains and claim them and so forth, but they got captured by the English, but then they escaped and they got actually to Lhasa, a true story. And actually I didn't meet Heinrich Harrer, but I was at a special fire puja with Dalai Lama, and when I say special, like about 200 other people. Well, it was an invite, so I felt special. And Heinrich Harrer was there, and Dalai Lama gave him some kind of award because they had gotten really close, but the big, that was neat, fire puja with Dalai Lama, but the neat part is I got to sit behind Richard Gere. Oh, this is silly. Okay, so unfortunately, also, of course, the Nazis were very interested in Tibet, and they believed, that maybe the Tibetans were the original Aryans. Unfortunately, Tibetans don't have generally blue eyes and blonde hair, so they were disappointed, like that. But there were some real travelers that are interesting. Alexander David Neal, who's was French, wrote a number of books, Magic and Mystery in Tibet. And I think she was right, she was a serious person. I mean, this is somebody who really snuck in and was able to stay and was one tough lady. I think, she didn't get kicked out and was able to get teachings. And I don't know, what else did she write? Magic, Mystery in Tibet, what else? Yeah, mystics and magicians, right, like that. Secret oral teachings, thank you. And then there was T. Lopsam Rampa, like that, like that was exposed later, as being like a plumber from England, but wrote a book called The Third Eye. Anyway, as a kid, I was just like fascinated by, stories of Tibet and hidden kingdoms and magical things and secrets and stuff like that. And just wanted to go there, of course. Maybe I'll still get a chance. What do you think? I'll see. But in the West, the idea of some place that's been untouched comparatively, that's preserved sacred teachings, that's been able to have some peace and quiet for a while, has held a fascination for the West for a long time, and really still does, like that. So, of course, then with my own root teacher, his name of his center, which was a centralist center in Pacific Grove, because it just meant meeting at people's houses, was Shambhala Mahayana Institute, like that. So the Kalachakra and Shambhala teachings have always been really interesting to me. And then many people here in 2011 took Kalachakra with Dalai Lama in Washington, D.C., and we have continued some level of Kalachakra practice here on Sundays, and also through the Kalachakra network. Folks have met online to do Kalachakra expanded beyond 6th session, as you know, and I'm very grateful to Andy. Is it Whiterich? How do I is it Whiterich? Yeah. So who's written a number of books on the 6th session Guru Yoga combined with the Kalachakra that are available. So, and as you know, we have a Kalachakra mandala posted on the back of the building facing the alleyway. I wanted to get like for two reasons. One is illuminating the alley, but I think it would be totally cool to have like, a light that when light goes to illuminate the mandala, and one light, illuminates the alleyway, because there's a conduit that runs along the back of it, and we just stick a light on there. So we have Medicine Buddha in the front and Kalachakra in the back, like that. I put a lot of effort into trying to make the Kalachakra teachings and the Shambhala teachings relevant and useful. So I'm going to present some of that material today. I may have talked about it a little bit in some other retreats, but I'm not sure. Are you guys interested? Oh, okay, good. So I wanted to do that preamble because I have a fairly serious side, lots of responsibilities, but I really love magical, new age, woo-woo crystal stuff. So, yeah, you know, uh, and I wanted I wanted to get a firm foundation in conventional Dharma here so that we know what we're doing, but um, maybe maybe going forward we could do a few interesting things. We do we're still doing full moon practice, right? We've taken that up, Vajrasattva practice. Isn't that right, Matthew? Yeah. One fun thing is that's important is to recharge your crystals. So they need to be recharged, just like because they absorb and give out energy. But so on a full moon day where the sky's clear, you put them in. There's a special practice. You put them in a bowl, and as you know, there's a lot of teachings around the reflection of the moon in the water is not different. So you have a nice kind of silver kind of. We can use stainless steel, but and then some water, and then you put your crystals, and then the moon reflects in the bowl, and you do Vajrasattva practice. That's fun stuff to do, all these kind of woo-woo things to do like that. Right now, I'm not. Start off kind of simple, but things I've done in the past, they're not quite Kala Chakra, but like doing chud practice out in the middle of the forest, and like during full moon night and things like that. But that was in Nevada City, and here I don't know if I'd want to be in McKinley Park in the middle of the night, because I've been there in the middle of the night. Yeah, I don't think you're walking around at 2 in the morning, McKinley Park. Like 10, yeah, 2's different. Anyway, so, but I know you're pretty tough, Deb, so I can do it. Yeah, no, they don't mess with you because they know about you. So there's Shambhala as the destination, but then what is the actual Kala Chakra journey? We have the sadhanas and the succession and different things like that, but the sadhanas and the meditations are not the whole thing. Those are like preparing for a climb by doing your calisthenics and learning how to tie your ropes and things like that. And not that I've ever done any real technical climbing because I'm too scared of falling. But it's still maybe visualizing, like Patty would know. The sun climbs up, Half Dome and stuff, and you visualize it and you plot out the route. And how much rope or not, or if you're free climbing, and how much, chalk you need or something. What do they use, chalk or something? How do they keep their hands dry? Gloves. Maybe they have gloves. Nothing. They're just no gloves. You can't use gloves. Gloves would slip. Yeah. So you don't want to know. Yeah. But most of the trainings we do. We call them practices, but trainings would be like doing the calisthenics, plotting out the route, checking the weather. But it's not what you go through when you do the climb, I'm sure. That's the structure, so that hopefully you'll know what you're doing on a structural level, but what you're going through on the climb has got to be different. What do you think? It's different. Even a regular journey, it's like, what you're going through. It's going to be different. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, and have people work with, because Mahamudra in Dzogchen is like the water, but the water needs a cup, and you just don't have a glass floating out in space. There's a story that comes with it, right? Like, we're having dinner, or we're coming back from a run, so we have our bottle, that everything fits in a journey or a story. Are you with me so far on that? Mm-hmm. So for putting together the journey aspect, I drew from different settings, traditional Kalachakra guidebooks, and which there are a few, but they from Tibetan masters like Panchen Lama, or last century Kangyur Rinpoche, very famous Nyingma Lama, who went there in a dream, and that book is in Edwan Birnbaum's book. What's it called again? No. Why don't you look it up? Edwin Birnbaum was a mountaineer. He's here in California, and he wrote a really interesting book about his interviews with Rinpoche and his insights, and he uses kind of a little bit of a Jungian background, so drawing from that, but also mainly drawing from the work of the mythologist and kind of Jungian person, Joseph Campbell, like that. So, the way to Shambhalak, thank you, yes. Has nice pictures too. So, yeah, so Joseph Campbell became known through his books, but then there were famous interviews with a journalist, and published books and on TV and things like that. And maybe he's known for saying, "Follow your bliss." Also, he taught at Sarah Lawrence College in Bronxville, where I was born. So it's a snooty, nice, good school. So I think he was very happy there. So in the heroic journey, we're going through process of transformation, and generally it's starting with, could start with an ordinary birth, but sometimes it starts with some kind of exceptional kind of birth, and the Shakyamuni is supposed to have some kind of exceptional birth, so that's a paradigmatic birth. But we could just be ordinary like us. Something happens that disrupts the ordinariness, and a person has to go on a journey, or decides to go on a journey to help out. Sometimes they're fleeing, sometimes it's by choice. But there's generally what's called a summons to the journey, and Joseph Campbell's methodology. I mentioned yesterday, generally Buddha Dharma is a trauma journey program, because Shakyamuni experienced various traumas and decided to leave the palace, which I think was traumatic in and of itself. But of course we know that experienced, he wanted to leave and go around or snuck out and saw someone at first really old, right? And was disturbed. And then, we think, well, why would she be disturbed by seeing really old, somebody old? But I remember as a social worker, the first time going into a real serious medical facility, and just people in the hallway just kind of going, help me, help, and it smelled like urine, and it was horrible, and I go, is this it? Wow, because of course my family, everything was kind of insulated like that. But then he came back and then saw someone who was really ill and or disabled, right? And that was shocking too. And finally, someone who had died, he visited the river, the Ghats, I guess. But the last thing he saw a yogi, so that was a summons in a way. He saw a way out. So the journey started from there. Did I tell the story correctly for you scholars? Did I get it? So, yeah. So the interesting part about some journeys is there's a summons or there's a need, but you don't want to go. Like, you have to go, but you don't want to. There's kind of a refusal, and there's a struggle. There can be struggles when people have to leave their homeland and become refugees, right? They have to leave, but you don't really want to leave. And a big part of a heroic journey is, leaving. Like yesterday I was talking about how our plane crashes in the Andes and the soccer team, somebody has to leave and go get help. So, but if we do go, then there's all these obstacles to deal with. And traditionally they might be, like a battle with a dragon or a battle with your, family, or Jonah in the whale or something like that, or, descending into Hades is, things like that, and a night sea journey and all kinds of disappointments, because you think I'm on the journey and should be going great, but you get all excited and on the journey and you finally go, and then your luggage gets stolen and your map and everything. Or, something like that happens. Your wallet gets stolen and you're in India, something like that. And it's at that point, this whole part is departure, but at that point where there's some kind of these obstacles that are difficult, that's called a threshold crossing. So we move from the known ordinary world into the unknown world, the non-ordinary world. And this is particularly true with Tantra and Mahamudra and Dzogchen. We have to move from the non-ordinary world into from the ordinary world into the non-ordinary world. And it means whether you're dragged or go willingly, you have to be on the journey like that. So there's that threshold crossing is also the Bardo experience. People are familiar with Bardo from Tibetan book Living and Dying, Solgye Rinpoche's book, and Bardo means the in-between. And for Jungian enthusiasts like Miguel, it's called liminality, the liminal state. Someone once told me that threshold had a literal thing, like they would be threshing the wheat in the room, and then you had to have you had to step over, so the threshold. Even in that unknown, non-ordinary world, there's more monsters and riddles and labyrinths and trials to work with. Because we think, well, now we're in the non-ordinary world and we're home. We're not even close. So in the journey to Shambhala and in many of the heroic journeys, you're finally going to meet up with the serious people in your life. I'm calling this the world of meeting like the father-mother, working with mommy-daddy issues, you could say in therapy. In this case, you're working with Kalachakra Vishmata energy, like that. And that meeting with the archetypal center of the universe brings up this huge confrontation with another Jungian term that Miguel will like, the shadow. And the shadow manifests as, I'm not worthy. This incredible, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. That resolution has to come forth through direct confrontation. I'm not really a Star Wars person, but I did buy an original Yoda, and now it's gone. I know. But anyway, it lost some hair along the way, so it's okay. But apparently George Lucas was really into the heroic journey and that stuff, and also met Serkan Rinpoche, previous Serkan Rinpoche, and Dharamsala had said. And when you look at a picture of Serkan Rinpoche, who's Alexander Berson's guru, he looks like, guess who? Yoda. But maybe that's just a myth. I don't know. But it does a little bit. The ears are out there. But it's true that George Lucas was very influenced by Joseph Campbell. The meeting, when you say confrontation, the meeting with the primary fertility people and the shadow, if we stick with it, then it leads to what's called like an apotheosis, sacred marriage. You feel divine because you've both worked with your shadow and worked with the two creator beings in your life. And for a lot of people, that's the end. But in our system, that's just the first awakening. But in many systems, that's the end. Like somebody really like Jane Austen. That's the end. They get married. But then there was a movie like Life in Pembroke or something. Did anybody see that one? No Jane Austen people here, I guess. No? Anyway, of course, so Elizabeth and Darcy marry, but then somebody gets murdered in Pembroke, and you can guess where it goes from there. We can't stay in the first awakening state. It's not permanent, and we usually think those are permanent. The marriage is permanent, and there's a summons to return to an ordinary place. The honeymoon's over or something. Usually it happens like in 7 or 10 years, something like that, There's something about that, sometimes 12 years. So, however, there's a second awakening that happens with you take in some amrita. Amrita is like dutsi in Tibetan. It can be a drink, but it's a magical infusion that comes through different beings. Usually in our tradition, we'd have the guru who represents deity and dakini, but sometimes it's the dakini who might be helping us on the way to the sacred marriage, but definitely we think we're done, but we're not done, and we're getting called to another reality, and we don't want to go, and generally that's when the dakini appears. And there has to be some kind of magical flight that sometimes means you're taking the amrita or the gift with you. So after the divorce, who's getting the dog or the CDs or whatever it was. What do you take with you after the marriage or somebody dies? What are you taking with you? But we're usually seeing that as a really horrible time, but that's when the dakini energy is particularly strong. And then there's another threshold crossing where you're coming back down to earth. What was that David Bowie song or movie where the man who fell to earth? Any David Bowie fans here? Oh, good. Okay. My peeps. Okay. It's in this threshold crossing, the second threshold crossing coming back, that is really the sense of resurrection and return, and Odysseus routing the pretenders to the throne of Greece and stuff like that. And I call that the third awakening. And at the third awakening, it feels like it feels like we're done. We've done the work. And, we come back. This is where Joseph Campbell ends. You come back with the boon, you come back with the wisdom from all your trials and sacred marriage and oneness and everything, and you share the knowledge or create families or cities or something like that, or temples. But I'm kind of fond of tragedy, because there's something there where in the real transformation at some point, then there's a fall from grace. Things look like, the movie doesn't really end when everything's great. So, people find out you're a fraud, or things don't work out, or, something like that. Is anybody old enough to have seen The Graduate? Okay, great. So what's neat about that movie, in so many ways, is, very end they're riding in the bus. Yeah, exactly. Like a regular, Nichols was such a great director. Normally it would be, the movie ends, they're smiling. But then they suddenly realize, like, we're fucked. And I think, I was just kind of reading up on that the other day. I think he didn't tell them he was going to keep the camera running. That was not scripted. Okay? That was not scripted. He just kept the camera running, and gradually, they just kind of returned to, like, well, here we are, and you're in your wedding dress. I have no money, no job, and you know, yeah, great film. So it's through the exile, the last kind of form of exile, that I call the fourth awakening, where you're totally back to being like kind of a ordinary person. You know, you've done all these things, and then you're just, it's people forget who you are, and you're just kind of ordinary. So I've shared one time, when I was studying Zen with Eiken Roshi, somebody says, well, what would be a way we can honor you after you're dead? And he said, to forget about me. Powerful though, right? Because usually we go, yeah, remember me, and please every year do a parinirvana ceremony for me. So he just, it's a little bit like Merlin dissolving into the tree. So it's at the fourth awakening that then we would say you become master, mistress of both worlds. That's important. So that's where the Mahamudra is, where we completely harmonized both relative and absolute worlds. We've come full circle. So at that point is a good point. That's when we could be able to teach and really heal, because we've gone full circle. It's not about us anymore. We've gone through the failures, and we've gone through the successes, and we'd say in Mahamudra it's become like one taste, like that. So it's very difficult, because most of us, we want to just stop at the first awakening, sacred, great marriage. And we definitely, don't want to be, we don't want to leave that place, and then we don't want to go through betrayal or go through shit and then be obscure, right? Like that. But I think that's the source of the Mahamudra teachings is Naropa had to find this guy, Tilopa, who was a nobody. See, the Mahasiddha Mahamudra, that was the name, just Tilo, and then P, Tilopa, like that. What's it mean in Spanish?
Tilopa?
Yeah.
Tilopa?
Yeah. Doesn't it mean tilapia fish?
Tilapia.
I'm just kidding.
But you said Tilo.
Yeah, it's kind of maybe.
Like the nickname?
I think that was his probably nickname too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah. But when we read the lives of the 84 Mahasiddhas, some were famous like Shantideva and so forth, but some were just really obscure. And from that, I think, has come the Mahamudra, because you really have to kind of come back to completely ordinary mind. They say that a lot in Zen training. They're like saying ordinary mind, but if somebody says that, we should also hit them, because then they may be attached to being ordinary. So you're trying to be ordinary, trying to act ordinary instead of just you're ordinary. I mean, how would you like it? So the koan I like to ask people is how would you like it if you become fully enlightened and no one recognizes it and nothing changes? Okay, good. Your Buddha was doing a little bit of magic. I love it.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I love it. So that's how that's how I put together the Shambhala journey. And Shambhalites are the folks really living in that master of both worlds. But it looks like totally ordinary. You wouldn't know, like that. But it can be special, but the person inside feels totally ordinary. Looks like that. So let's stop here. I've probably talked for too long, but if people have some questions and comments on how that actually works.
Thank you, Rinpoche. It's pretty confusing so far, but I'm curious because it sounds like there's a propensity to get stuck at one of these earlier awakenings, and then what is the nudge kind of that one can pick up on or recognize or find to continue?
The energy is always bodhicitta. So, we have the 5 paths, and that we talk about, accumulation and joining and seeing and meditation, and then no more learning, and that's all, powered by compassion, really. So the Dakini showing up and the teachers showing up and all the trials and tribulations are ways to, refine our bodhicitta like that. There, that's simple. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. So I'm not sure I have a question, but an observation, because it does seem like in all of the stories, somebody gets stuck at one of those thresholds, right? And that's the end of the story, and we're very happy with it, boy gets girl, girl gets girl, whatever it is. But yours is a much more ordinary structure, and it's brilliant, but it's a constant, like a death and coming back. Like it's built in here is this constant pulsing that you talk about.
Yeah, it's dynamic like that, yes.
And it is not a romantic story.
No.
Although it's extraordinarily deep,
yeah,
rich, with some romance in there, but it isn't your traditional happy ending. But it's very beautiful, and thank you for sharing that.
I would say it's kind of plant-based agricultural model, you see, of death and rebirth and transformation, rather than, there's some hunting in there, for sure. And that's one thing we like about, like, these Shangri-La journeys, is people are hunting for treasure. But I think that's secondary to a basic kind of ecological steady state situation, which is still dramatic, but it falls on its way the minute spring starts, or summer. So it is kind of a cyclic kind of approach in that way, which I think Buddhism is a cyclic tradition. And there was a kind of famous scholar of University of Chicago, Mircea Eliade, who wrote The Myth of Eternal Return, and that was, Reggie Ray's teacher in Chicago, and one of my teachers at Naropa, so I was kind of inundated with that material. where it's not a linear, like, it's a circular, recurring myth rather than an end game myth, like that. You know, it's like, you know, we die, but our kids go on, or the roses die, but then the daffodils come up, and what was that song where, like, where do all the flowers go? And who sang that one? Peter, Paul, and Mary. Yeah, yeah, super. So when you get the cycle, when you get the whole cycle, that's full Buddhahood. Yeah. But I still like, you know, and I really do like Jane Austen. But you know, I mean, they had problems in Pembroke, you know, afterwards, right? The BBC 6-part one was the best, right? But who? I mean, I have a little heart for Keira Knightley. She tried, right? I don't know. Which one do you like the best? Keira Knightley, or who's the actress's name now? I can't remember. Who's in the BBC version? Okay.
Emma Thompson? She's in a lot.
Who?
Emma Thompson?
No, it wasn't Emma. It'll come to me. It's okay. I mean, I like happy endings, but like the full cycle of life and death and Buddhahood is transcendent of, you know, it includes happiness and grief, and has to, because things arise and disappear and then arise again. That's the program. Yay.
Okay. I think you did a wonderful presentation. It feels clear to me. And I have something to, you know, hold on to. So I want to thank you for that.
Thanks, Deb. Super glad you're here, neighbor. It's on, yeah.
Listening to your presentation, I realized that you were describing the story of my life I told yesterday.
Uh-huh, yeah.
That's all.
Thanks, Miguel. Yeah. Thank you.
I know yesterday you mentioned that we don't actually need to suffer to wake up, but this version does seem to include tragedy. Can you let us know kind of the difference, or anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, we actually don't have to, like, you know, include suffering as part of the journey. You know, we could go, that's great, the flowers are blooming, and then that's great, the flowers are fading. That's great, the baby's coming, that's great, the baby's dying. I mean, it could be like that. It does seem that most of the time, you know, something goes wrong and we fail to recognize, you know, Rigpa, and we start creating all these struggles, and we have to go on a journey. But we're going to go through, you know, the enlightened life means we're also going to go through changes anyway. It doesn't stop the change. It may stop the, like, why is this happening to me? Which is real suffering, like, why is, you know, like that, which we all go through, or, you know, supreme disappointments, and it's really hard to see, you know, why, you know, Dharma and the Buddha and teachers afterwards always try to, you know, why do some people seem to have just such tragic lives, and, you know, like, things just don't ever work out, and, you know, why are things such a mess? So part of a big journey story is attempting also to put together a cosmology of, why are things messy and how to fix it like that. But Buddhist idea is it doesn't have to be a mess. But I'm not really defending any of the arguments to why we fail to recognize why do we go ignorant. I don't think there's any really super good explanation for that. Why do we lose track? We don't. We could just say the ground Mahamudra kind of gets too wrapped up in itself or something, and but why? Why wouldn't you just? Why is there any problems at all? I think the Buddha kind of just said, well, let's get sober first, and then we'll find out why we drank. Which is the way to do it. You can't. If someone's trying just use recovery language. If someone, they come in and say, I want to find out why I'm drinking. It's usually hopeless. Like that. But yeah, I don't have to. Yeah. We know we can stop it. So that's the good news.
I really love archetypal and mythical stories. This question is kind of going off what Ellen inquired about, which, okay, it makes sense that along the journey, the pilgrim is going to face a choice. And to continue, they need bodhicitta. But it seems like there's a lot of stories, too, when the pilgrim makes the choice to stop the journey, maybe looking back at Medusa and being turned to stone, or a pillar of salt, or being lured into states of stuckness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if there's what you have, what happens if the aspirant stops and just gives up?
Traditional Dharma peace would be, a little bit Groundhog Day. I mean, you'll get another chance, but maybe not this lifetime. So it's meant to be optimistic in a sense. Like, you do get a second chance, but you might not get a second chance in this lifetime. And I think it's important to look at comedies, read comedies as much as tragedies, which are touching too, but Greek myths like Orpheus and Eurydice, and kind of the last minute just fades away, really touching. So, yeah, not everything works out, you see. There's no spring at the bottom. People think, I'll hit bottom and then, I'll stop my idiotic activity, but there's no spring there. So when I say bodhicitta, the bodhicitta doesn't just come from us. So because we're part of a community, hopefully, and part of a larger mandala, bodhicitta arrives in the form of the guru and the dakini and the dharmapalas and our animals and stuff like that. So you have these reminder beings going on. So that's, when we say enlightenment is the results from the two accumulations of merit and wisdom, that's the merit piece, is you've built this structure in where there are going to be certain people that are going to inspire you or kick your ass. And that's also a manifestation of bodhicitta. So, the Shambhala journey here, the traditional journey is not Conan the Barbarian kind of, like the hero does it all. That's very American. The hero does it all alone and takes all the credit and stuff like that. This is very much the bodhicittas in the environment, if it's available, and magical creatures and ordinary creatures and ordinary people show up, and somehow the heroic person is able to take advantage of that. But once again, it's kind of like hard to say, like why, why did one person able to pull it off and the other person didn't? So Buddhists maybe do have a slightly tragic view of life because we're aware that some people don't make it, and at least in this lifetime, which they don't, really.
Thank you, Lama. That was a very helpful presentation. What I'm taking from this is that everyone's journey will have the challenges, will run into walls, will have the threshold to step over and find these stopping places. But the way we handle it, we don't need to suffer with them. They don't have to be horribles. It's just that it's how we deal with it and how we are able to use the support, and why it's so vital to have a teacher and a sangha. Because when you get to those places, you need to have that. And that's what I'm getting from what you said, and that the challenges will be there. And we'll all suffer in some challenging way, but we needn't really make that into serious suffering and tragedy for ourselves.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. Tragedy is not inevitable. It doesn't have to be that way, which is why things are a lot of time tragic, because we know people are destroying ourselves or others, and it really didn't have to happen. So, whenever there's some kind of destiny piece, I get a little worried, because then you get this predestination thing, and so, it's like, that's a little scary, like predestination's a little scary. Karma is meant to be open-ended, and impermanence means, it's changeable. It's not determined. Yay. The traditional ways of looking, in the Dharma piece that are published are like, the 10 paramitas, the 10 bhumi levels, the 5 paths, but they're kind of abstract, right? They don't by itself. Looking back, you can say you were at that level or I was at that level, but they're more hindsight than going forward. I think a lot of levels are also set up by teachers, because they want to know, like, where, you've got your pedagogical viewpoint, and where are you? Like in, in Rinzai Zen, Shinji Zen, like, there's a gradation of kind of koans, so if somebody's past this, then they're kind of in this club, and then you still have this to do, and the same way here in Vajrayana, if someone's doing a certain level of practice, then a teacher can put together, a lesson plan for a group and work it out like that. Because teaching in a monastery, even in a small place like this, is kind of like a one-room schoolhouse, and you have to be, kind of knowing where people are. And I think a lot of the traditional Indian Tibetan things are not so much for the student as for the teacher. It's like, is this person ready to be Omze? Is this person ready to, do this or that? is this person, a big one would be, is this person ready to go on retreat by themselves? And then you're kind of looking at your chart like, okay, they got third bhumi and they're on, so I think it's a little bit more for the teacher, honestly. Tibetans wouldn't say that, by the way. Probably not. But yeah, it's not, because the bhumis and the paramitas, I don't know, do I have to explain? But I won't. But, in the 5 paths, you generally don't find teachers teaching from that, right? You don't generally say, well, okay, now we're, it's more fluid. So it's a little bit more like, okay, that person, passed Algebra 1. So now you're ready for Algebra 2. And that, then you pass Algebra 2. I don't know what it's doing now. And then you're ready for trig. It's like that. So if somebody didn't pass Algebra 2, we're not going to have them do calculus. I only passed Algebra 1. Yeah. So I'm trying to come up with the Shambhala dreams are more like actually things you can, connect with, because then you can model yourself on it. And what I'm putting together is like a dream program. Yeah. Easy. So next time I see people, maybe in darshan, like, what level am I at? Okay. But and just to we're going through this round, this cycle, just even during the day. So it is a little bit like, James Joyce's Ulysses. I mean, it all takes place in one day, right? And, so we're not drinking our way through Dublin. But yeah, it's repeating itself every day, so it isn't just, our whole lifetime. Yeah. Well, what do you say? Okay, and there was somebody else wanted to make an announcement or something? No? Okay.
We have, sorry, John, I'm reaching over you. Dun, da, da, da. If you're not reading your emails, this is your public email. Your public email announcement is, we are having a 10-year anniversary party here, right in here.
Hey.
Yay!
Hey.
I don't hear any cheering out there, so I'm just going to keep cheering for myself. All right, there we go. We're having a 10-year anniversary party. And with the party comes partiness, meaning fun, meaning dancing, disco ball. Actually, I don't even know if we have a disco ball. I'm trying to see if I can figure out one. We're gonna have a live DJ. We're gonna have dancing. We're gonna have silent auction tables, and we're gonna time it. So none of this slacking around like, that looks interesting, I may or may not bid on it. No, you're on a timed race to beat your fellow Shambhala journey people to that item. So come, bring, very focused, yes. Come, bring yourselves, bring your family, bring your friends, bring your dancing shoes, bring your dancing clothes, bring your wallets, but most importantly, bring your Buddha nature. So show up all as one in unity and be ready to shake your butt and drop some cash and have a good time and be ready to make sure that we do everything in our power to keep this hardcore building, but this journey alive with each other, and that we continue to stay together and study together and be together and be on this Shambhala journey. And one way to do that is to support us by coming to the party.
Are you going to bother telling us when it's going to be?
No, I'm building up the suspense so that someone
Look
can
at the
ask.
poster,
Thank you.
Deb.
It is on Saturday night, November 15th. Be here, be square, dance in squares, dance in circles. It all begins at 8:30, and then 6:30, and then at 8:30, guess what? We're gonna flick the lights and say, "Go dog, go home." But we're having a 2-hour big old shindig. Get here. Your committee, Jessica, Susan, Jen, and myself, we've been working really hard on it. We're planning a super fun night for y'all. So please, please, please come. It should be fun. I did coin booty nature. I've been saying that a lot. Booty nature. Or booty nature, yeah.
So that's a hard act to follow, but also the previous weekend to November 15th, on November 8th, Tenzin Shoki will be here for another workshop of the Sustainable Service Program. And this module, there's 2 modules. One of them is on conflict resolution. The other module is on self-compassion, what it is and what it is not. So you may register, please, on Eventbrite. You can come to one or both modules. Anyway, so it's on Eventbrite. If you got any questions, you can ask me. And lunch today, there is Indian food. There is a vindaloo, which is a red sauce. It has meat in it. There's a korma, which is a yellow sauce. It does not have meat. There's tofu and paneer in it. So for you vegetarians, you'll know which one to take. Is that it? I think so. Okay, and I think there's lots and lots of food, but the retreat people should be first in line. And then for those of you who may want to stay and join us, you should feel free, but please come after the retreat people because they've all paid their big bucks. So if you want to stay for lunch, a little donation in the donation box would be greatly appreciated.
I don't think my half is going to eat a lot.
What time do we get back here?
Yeah. 2.
So Susan said 2 if you didn't hear her. So if you're coming back, I mean, this is just extraordinary teachings. And we have teachers coming through here, our own teacher every other week, which is very rare actually. And but as you've heard today, we're so lucky. It's beyond, the word luck doesn't begin to describe it. And so I just wanted to mention that at the conclusion of our retreat today, there'll be a kata offering, which I think most of you are aware of, but I just want you to know that Rinpoche gave up work, seeing yesterday especially, he normally sees many clients, and he wasn't able to. Instead, he's here with us. So when you do your donation, to consider helping him so we can do this lots more times. Thank you.
Dedication. Yeah.
Let's begin. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. May the teachings of the Buddha flourish, and may the upholdings of the teachings remain forever. May all migrators achieve happiness, and may they fulfill all their temporary and ultimate goals. Losang, magical display of the deep awareness of all the victorious ones. Merciful giver of a stream of profound and vast instructions to the fortunate migrators. Please remain always unperishing, unchanging, unfading. Avalokiteshvara, great treasury of objectless compassion, Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, Vajrapani, destroyer of the entire host of Maras, Sankapa, crown jewel of the snowy land sages, Losang Gyatso, I make request at your holy feet.
Om